But first, let's have a word with John Caudwell, who's an entrepreneur and philanthropist known for founding the retailer Phones For You. John, very good evening. I was saying to Andy, our business correspondent, that if this was a budget for growth, to me, it didn't really do the job. What do you think?
Well, I think that's exactly right, Ian. I mean, there are some good component parts in the budget. I think the capital allowances is a fundamental part of my strategy that I would use to get the UK back to growth. But the big problem with governments, and it's not just the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, it's all governments and forevermore, they talk about budgets. It's about time we forgot about budgets and put business plans in. Because that's what we are. The UK country is one of the biggest businesses in the world and should be run like a business. And of course, it's got its charitable element or its social services element that needs to look after the poorer people of society. But you can't do that unless you run a really hugely profitable venture. So they should be looking at the business plan of how do we make Britain more lucrative, more profitable, and create GDP growth. And I'm afraid they don't do that, most of them. And in fact, not most of them, none of them do it. They look at tweaking around the edges to try and stimulate a bit here, help out a bit there, but with no central plan for growth. And it's only growth that will give us the service and the standard of living that people desire.
And if you want people to create new businesses, if you want to encourage growth, surely the last thing you do is put up business taxes, but they put corporation tax up by 40%, from 19 to 25%, which equates to 40%. Now, I can't think of a more damaging thing to do to the economy if you want businesses to thrive. And yes, that they have said, well, this will be compensated for by more investment allowances, etc., etc. But we've already seen the likes of AstraZeneca saying, well, we're going to build a new factory in Ireland now because they've got a 12% corporation tax rate. So in the end, this is self-defeating, surely.
Well, of course, the government between a rock and a hard place because of all the money given away during the pandemic. And that has not only left the government's balance sheet starved of cash, but has also helped to create the inflation that we've got today. So there was a basic mismanagement of the economy in those early years of the pandemic. And right at the beginning, I was absolutely screaming for something I call Caudwell Pandemic Recovery, CPR, because we needed to rescue the UK economy. And a big central part of that was to create an enterprise zone which would have massive tax benefits for companies from all over the world coming to the UK in this enterprise zone to bring environmental technologies. And my call was for us to become the Silicon Valley of the environment for the future. And that would create, it wouldn't create jobs now, but it would create jobs in 5 to 10 years' time and create prosperity for Britain. So at least we'd have a story of this is what we're doing for tomorrow. I'm afraid these budgets, whichever party's in power, tweak round the edges. They solve some problems for some people, but they don't really properly stimulate the growth that we need for everybody to get their standard of living that they would wish to have.
Well, we have no long-term thinking in this country, do we? If we were having this conversation in Germany or Japan, it would be a very different type of conversation. But politicians, I suppose, in some ways naturally think in electoral cycles. And this government, they know there's got to be an election within the next 18 months. Although there weren't many election-winning gimmicks in this budget, I have to say, but we'll probably have to wait for next year for that.
I think the childcare was a really positive thing because we have got virtually full employment. We do need skilled people to get back to work. And if they're mothers that can't afford the childcare, I think that was a positive thing. But of course, it's delayed quite some way. And I think they probably could have done a soft introduction to it earlier to try and solve part of the problem and put some of those people back at work earlier. Maybe they could have given a partial allowance to just start ramping up the system. So, they have done one or two good things, but the real significant contribution to growing the UK has not been put in place. I'm afraid we are destined to really just keep scratching forward rather than create the growth that we should be able to do. And partially as a consequence of Brexit, of course, because we can now do whatever we like to attract companies from all around the world and give them tax breaks. And something else that I've written to Rishi about is why not consider a differential corporation tax? If we have companies that are providing great benefits to Britain, why shouldn't they enjoy a better corporation tax rate than some industry that might be seen as detrimental, like the alcohol, tobacco industries, online betting companies? Why don't we have differential corporation tax to try and encourage the best behaviour for the citizens of Britain?
Okay, thank you very much. That's John Caudwell, founder of Phones for You.